Welcome to Wake Up and Teach by Kelly Education, where we uncover inspiring stories and strategies for reimagining our nation's education workforce.
Hi, I'm Nicola Soares, President of Kelly Education, and this is your front row seat to the future of education workforce on Wake Up and Teach. Today's focus is special education. Special education isn't just about supporting students with special needs. It's about creating an inclusive learning environment that benefits every child in the classroom. But as the demand for special education services grows, so does the need for talented educators and staff who are equipped to meet these challenges. Joining us today is Dr. Catina Lyles, the Chief Human Resources Officer at the Special School District of St. Louis County, the largest specialized education provider in Missouri. Dr. Lyles brings vast experience in special education leadership, talent development, and fostering an inclusive learning environment. I'm so excited to talk to her. Let's dive in. Catina, welcome to the show.
Greetings, and thank you for having me.
Well, I have to tell you, I was really excited to have this conversation today. So SSD is a very important partnership for us. And given that you are the largest specialized education provider in the state of Missouri, what trends are you seeing related to the demand for special education services and the need for talent?
What we see is a greater demand for services and supports around social emotional learning, or what we term as SEL. SEL is increasingly recognized as key to supporting students' overall well-being in schools, and it's a catalyst for academic success. If a student is struggling from a social emotional standpoint, that impacts their ability to access learning. So many school districts are now incorporating SEL into their guaranteed curriculum. Partnering with special education will provide students with that individualized instruction they need to develop those social emotional skills in the special education environment, and then supports the student with generalizing those skills as they are in the regular education environment. Organically just drives the need for educators who have that knowledge and skill set around social emotional development, or who desire to grow that knowledge and skill set, because teachers don't always come with that as an area of expertise, but we are able to help and support them in developing it.
That's terrific, and I absolutely love that focus. And when I think about, what SSD does in terms of the greater community there, it's a very unique educational setting. So when I think about your approach to tasks like recruiting and onboarding and training, and actually retaining staff differently than any other traditional school district might, what are some of the ways and different methods that you're going about approaching to do just that?
So our recruiting efforts are traditionally focused on educators with special education certification. However, I would tell you that our director of recruitment is actively speaking with certified general education teachers, sharing how they can take their knowledge and skill set and then obtain a special education certification. We're also recruiting from within. We just held an event last week for our paraprofessionals aspiring to be teachers.
Oh, wow.
So, that's a huge team that we have access to, and they are dedicated. They know and grow our students every day. And so us having an event like that is allowing them to learn about those traditional and non-traditional ways that they may access a path to special ed teacher certification. They're already working for our district, so I think it's a natural opportunity for them to support students in a different way.
I absolutely love that. And, we're always very supportive, especially with folks that are working Aspire in their career path and, looking to add to credentials. I think that's outstanding. So, but, we all know that even across the country, the demands for special services and having the talent to be able to support that. Are you facing any sort of big challenges in terms of recruiting and retaining our special education professionals?
I would say that seeing a decline in special education majors. So students that are entering colleges and universities, special education is not as high on the list of majors. And so that lends itself to a smaller pool of applicants that we have available to recruit. And I would say that one of the things have noticed, I taught for some time at the university level, and one of the things I realized in interacting with the students there was that they weren't even aware They're not always aware that special education is an option, or what exactly does it mean to be a special education teacher or a support staff. In special education, there's so many different roles that you can hold to support students with special needs. I find that sometimes pre-service teachers are just not aware of the many options out there. So that does present a challenge that we are able to address as we foster and build relationships with colleges and universities. There's an opportunity to say, how do you onboard students around special education? Because every student does have to at least get an introduction to special education in their coursework. But I think we could utilize that as an opportunity to expand their thinking around what the possibilities are in relation to certifications they could have to support all learners.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a shortage, I think, with incoming freshmen in their undergraduate programs entering into the teaching profession in general. We see that obviously across the country, and certainly it drives services like ours in terms of supporting our public school districts. But pivoting to another topic, Catina. So SSD's strategic plan emphasizes collaborative planning with partner districts. Can you share how your team engages in this process and why is it essential for student success?
So collaboration is truly key in the work that we do for kids. Human Resources works really closely with our partner districts. Special School District partners with 22 districts in St. Louis County. And so we partner with the leadership in those districts to ensure that we can take care of staff, get the people in front of students that need to be with proper certifications, proper qualifications, ready to really work with students on day one. And that involves a tremendous amount of planning, collaboration, communication to align our efforts with the efforts of the partner district, because there are differences from district to district, but to ensure that we are aware of what their needs are so that we can ultimately together partner to maximize on student outcomes.
I love that. So in the context of special education, the term inclusion has a very specific and actually a very vital meaning, and it refers to integrating students with disabilities into general education classrooms. This is very distinct from broader discussions around the term. So why is it so important for general education staff to really collaborate closely with special education staff as well to make that inclusion successful?
Collaboration between general and special education is truly, truly essential for inclusion. It ensures that students with disabilities receive the necessary supports and accommodations to access learning opportunities in gen ed. So, for example, if the collaboration is not there and you have a special education teacher servicing and supporting a student's needs per their IEP, but that student transitions most of their day in the general education environment. Without that collaboration, the student is potentially learning a skill in isolation, but not being able to generalize. So that collaboration is truly key. And I would say that special education staff bring that individualized instruction, expertise around modifications, while that general education teacher is that content area expert. So if you successfully marry those two, then we're planning for student success.
I completely agree with that. I started my career as a public school social studies teacher, and I started at middle school teaching 7th and 8th grade. And my first teaching assignment, I was teamed and partnered with a special education teacher that came into my classroom about 3 of my class periods. But I will have to tell you, I don't know that I was prepared for team teaching, especially with students with special needs. So when we think about now, especially with students with disabilities that are regularly included into general education classrooms, literally for the majority of their day, how can we better prepare general education teachers in order to support those needs?
I would say it starts with leadership.
Yeah.
District leadership has to operate from a shared vision
Mm.
of how to support all students, and that includes students with special needs. I always look at teaching students from the perspective of this football. You have those two white lines. Oftentimes, we teach to the middle, is what I would say. But we have students on either end of those white lines, and those are students with different exceptionalities. So, in order to ensure that we are meeting the needs of the entire population of our students, you have to start with a shared vision that is designed with a portrait of who your graduate is in mind. So who is the student that, matriculates through our school system, leaves as a senior in high school? What do we want that student to know and be able to do to contribute in a global society? But that means a clear partnership around pedagogy, provisions for professional learning, time for general ed and special ed teachers to collaborate, and a shared responsibility for student outcomes. It has to be shared. It can't be, this is special ed's issue, this is general education's issue. It's accountability on all of us for all students.
Pivoting to a really, I think, important topic, and it's a favorite topic of mine, and that's really around the well-being of our teachers and our support staff. We talk a lot about students and their mental health and well-being, but what are some of the specific ways that SSD ensures that educators and staff feel supported?
We do prioritize creating a supportive work environment through things as soon as a teacher is onboarded, through mentorship, professional development opportunities, ensuring manageable caseload. We also focus on recognizing and celebrating staff's achievements, promoting a culture of collaboration and respect. We just held our salutes event a couple nights ago, where we were honoring those who have contributed greatly to student outcomes. In addition, I see human resources as providing things like quality insurance, health insurance and benefits, allowing staff to have many opportunities to take care of themselves and their families so that then they can be here and take care of kids every day. That's hugely important.
I love that. If you could implement one transformative change in the education workforce overnight, what would that be and why? And I know that's a loaded question.
Well, it's funny because what surfaces for me is artificial intelligence, and I cannot believe I am saying this because even a year ago I would have had a different opinion. But I believe that we should take the lead as educators and drive the use of artificial intelligence for the purpose of freeing the time that we need for collaboration around direct student and family support. I truly believe that AI can be a useful tool in giving the gift of time that everyone says they need. And I think we may be missing an opportunity. So if I could just flip a switch, it would be that we know how to utilize AI to give time back to us so that we can directly support students and families.
I really love that. Well, in Kelly Education, too, we are doing all sorts of piloting from a human capital perspective, especially with, from a sourcing and recruiting perspective. And in education right now, especially with artificial intelligence, it seems like the focus is more on, ways to prevent, plagiarism. But I love what you're saying is it is a tool and it can be incredibly complementary. So I'm in violent agreement with you on that. So, as you look ahead, how do you see the role of special education professionals evolving? I mean, what steps should districts take to prepare for these changes?
I see the role of special ed professionals evolving into a greater demand for specialized instruction, particularly around social emotional learning. I really think that districts should prepare for these changes by investing in ongoing professional development, promoting these collaborative models with special education and with other agencies. From when you think about social emotional learning, you have counselors, you have social workers. I mean, there are a lot of entities that can truly support a school district in leveraging all of the knowledge needed to ensure that each student has what they need from that standpoint, that we can foster their growth and development. And I also think that we need to leverage technology as well in that to support us in being able to meet the needs of all students. Technology does also bring an opportunity to access data quickly, to analyze and synthesize and come to some reasonable recommendations that we can use quickly and begin to move forward with building plans for students to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Catina, we're at the end of our time, and I've really appreciated your insights and perspectives, especially around special education. I love what SSD is doing, and it's very unique because I don't see, an educational community like that anywhere in the U.S., actually. So I think the service is just extraordinary, especially with what you do for students and their families. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
What a great discussion with Dr. Catina Lyles. I loved hearing her expertise and insights on how districts can better recruit, train, and retain special education professionals, and why collaboration between general and special education staff is so essential. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please consider leaving us a rating or review. It does help us reach more listeners like you. I'm Nicola Soares, and I look forward to having you with us again on Wake Up and Teach. Take care.
This podcast was produced in partnership with Amaze Media Labs.